new figures from the Home Office showing not a single burglary was solved by the police in the last 3 years across half neighbourhoods in England and Wales. Not one. The data comes after the 2022 pledge from police chiefs across England and Wales that all home burglaries reported would be attended. What is going wrong? What has gone wrong? I want to first welcome to the programme Steve Hartshorn, who's National Chair of the Police Federation. Hello to you, Steve.
Good evening.
It's good to see you. Thank you for coming in. Is there any way, and I'm going to be speaking, by the way, in a moment, to Dame Vera Baird, the former Victims Commissioner. Hello to you, Vera.
Hello.
Vera, welcome. Lovely to have you back with us on the programme. I just want to have a word with Steve first, and then we'll get your thoughts too. Steve, is there any way of looking at this other than it being a crashing failure of law and order?
I'm sorry to say I don't think there is. What I'd say to the public that are the victims, but also those that are monitoring the statistics and looking at the data, there's a vast difference between attendance to every burglary, which is what chiefs and the government wants to do, and actually getting results. Because sadly, when you look at austerity, the cutbacks to police officer numbers, the so-called uplift to get us back to where we need to be, but also that draining resources from the police staff side, from the crime scene investigators. Sometimes we can attend a burglary, but we might need the resources for them to come and do a DNA, a footprint lift, fingerprints. That costs money, it's resource intensive, and others way beyond the officer attending, supervising the police, the chief constable, they will set priorities for that particular area, and if there isn't anything immediately obvious, that crime may well be screened out and no further action taken, which to me, as used to be a frontline officer out there dealing, you want to give the very, very best service you can to the public, to the victim, so you can actually take these burglars off the street and lock them up for a long time.
Well, you'll understand, Steve, my well, frankly, complete incredulity about this. The rate of tackling burglary, it's not just dreadful, it simply does not exist. I mean, can it be accounted for by a shortage of resources and personnel? Is it, do you believe, as simple as that?
I don't think it's a simple answer as lack of resource, lack of funding. I think that plays a major part. However, it would be nice if it wasn't me sat here today and some of the other chief constables who have got these dismal rates and accounting to their own local constituents, their members of the public, set against their local police and crime policing plan as to how they can justify having such dismal clear-up rates.
So basically you're saying there the plan is also at fault, the strategy for dealing with crime, not just the absence or the shortage of officers. What could be wrong with a plan that could account for no one being brought to book for a burglary?
Again, you have to look at the wider aspects of what a policing plan involves for that local area. You'll have your national targets, you'll have local targets, you'll have police and crime commissioners who want to have their input as well. But mostly my frontline officer colleagues, my detective colleagues are out there, they're responding to crime that's actually happened. So what they might set at the start of a year doesn't always replicate what actually happens throughout the year, with increased demand on mutual aid for people policing protests and going to demonstrations. If you abstract those officers from that core community function, they're not able to respond to those particular crimes. With the lack of visible policing on the streets and in the countryside, that potentially emboldens criminals to take action where they can effectively walk in and out of premises without being checked, without being seen. Some of it is as simple as it's a numbers game. We need more resources out there, but some of it is we need the backup to actually investigate these crimes properly. But sometimes it's managing expectations, and we cannot always get the forensics or the leads that we need to actually solve a crime.
Steve, we do see police visiting now. That seems to be the pledge. When police do visit the scene of a burglary, what do they do? What do they do with the forensic evidence that they gather?
Well, hopefully they'll spend some time reassuring the victim that the property is safe, the first thing, to make sure the suspects have gone. Then they'll do an analysis of the scene itself, look at the points of entry, look at the various places where things were stolen from, trying to find where you can get a reliable trace contact for perhaps DNA, fingerprints
And so on.
footprints, gather any CCTV evidence, possibly give them a bit of a crime survey review to try and make sure that their own property can be resecured, because anecdotal evidence will tell us that if you've been a victim of crime once, you're statistically more likely to be re-victimised again unless you change something physical, be it lighting, locks, doors.
The burglars
something
come
different.
back, in other words.
Yeah, so they keep an eye, they've been there before, they know the thing. So if you can change something to make it hard for them to come back, but of course then doing door-to-door visits, visiting neighbours opposite, with a plethora of doorbells with cameras on, local CCTV, all that takes time and investigation. But of course, once you get data, you then need to know how to handle it. You've got to store it. That costs police a fortune every single year. So there's a lot more to do than it used to be. Technology should be helping us, but sometimes it disables us.
I suppose it is worth noting, isn't it, that we do see, well, I believe we see more people with camera doorbells, more security around their homes, and that's encouraged by the police and by public information. So that does deliver a kind of invisible benefit.
It does, but again, with that new technology coming, sometimes people can defeat it, face masks, hoods, darker clothing, disguise their behaviour. So sometimes we've got so much evidence.
In deterrence, because it doesn't result in more convictions because there aren't any.
That's right.
I mean,